We have a 10-day conference. We have 39 speakers. A large number of them are talking about diet and nutrition. So a lot of us have heard information about diet, and we have our own intuitive feeling about diet. And we have a pretty good idea, and we're pretty confident that we have some plan or we know what the plan should be. But there's another area where we are feeling totally wild, the Wild West. And that's when it comes to nutritional supplements. Most of us are getting our information from anywhere. Everyone's got a probiotic, everyone's got an enzyme. Most of us just don't intuitively understand. Like if you package up ashwagandha, I can understand that because it's an herb. But most supplements, we're really feeling a little helpless. So what would be really great is if you could, from all of your years of experience, tell us what are, in your opinion, the most important non-negotiable supplements that you believe each of us, if we had a pen and paper and we're going to go out tomorrow and buy it, what are the supplements, the top 10 supplements that you think every one of us, or if you want to separate from men and women as specifically as you can, that we should be including in our life on a regular basis? And I know you don't have blood tests and you don't know what we're deficient in. So just do the best to guide us of what should we do. We really are really not clear. Please, each of you tell us your list of your top 10, and you can go beyond 10 if you would like.
That's such a great question. It's the question of the hour. It's always the question of the day, and almost the question of every conference. What do we recommend our protocols? Well, I did a 15-hour. I've been driving. So I've been sitting, and I thought I'm just going to really go heavy on Dr. Pai's Bosmeric. And so he's got a really incredible product. In fact, I'm sure I have some here. I do actually. I should show it. I should probably get up now. I've been I'll change my position here. Okay, and I'll show you what some of the things I do. I have them here with me right next to me, actually, because I just walked in the house after all this driving, and I wanted to do an experiment. So after I left Dr. Pai's, drove 15 hours, and I took 12 of his Bosmerics, and I wanted to see what the effect was. It was profound. I mean, I've taken the product before. I love the product, but it was profound. Because when you're sitting all the time driving, you get inflamed. Your body's not moving. It's really not a healthy thing to be doing. And I got up the next day and I was popping. I was just rocking it. So, okay, let me just get a few things out. I'm reaching into my grab bag here of all the goodies. Okay, here we go. Oh, no, not that one. Let's see these. Nope. Okay, hold on. Oh, it's on this side. Okay, got that. So, okay, there's the Bosmeric right there, and I really appreciate that product, Dr. Pai. What an amazing, this is a clinical product. So this is not something where it was just like, well, let's just throw these ingredients together and then let's see what happens. It's been well worked out, and I'll let Dr. Pai talk about that. And that's a preeminent type of anti-inflammatory with the key ones in it. And the big heavy four in this one is Boswellia, which is frankincense, which I absolutely am in love with frankincense. I've grown frankincense for years. I eat frankincense resin. I'm crazy about that tree. I just am totally all the way into it. Of course, turmeric. I'm also a crazy turmeric grower and love turmeric massively. And it's got the C3, which I'll let Dr. Pai talk about. And then what else is the other one's ginger, of course. And then the piperine or the bioperine, the black pepper extract that is in this product. So that's one that I use and I like, and I really went heavy on it. Never did that many actually before, and I loved it. I love the Dragon Herbs products and certain products that Ron Teagarden has put together over the years I really like. And because I injured a tendon in my leg, I've been doing a lot of Frame Builder, which is basically a Eucomia formula. Now I'm going to say a word that's just crazy because it's such a weird spelling. It's like Eucharist. EUCOMMIA is one of my favorite herbs in the world. I really don't take supplements. Like I don't really take like vitamin C or, I might do like a B vitamin thing, a squirt deal that I do, which I really like because it's just like an energy pickup. But I'm not like a person who takes like multivitamins every day. I haven't never done that. I haven't done that in 30 years. So what I'm into is more the superfoods and the herbalism to get all of those things. The Eucomia formulas like this are really good if you like injured your leg, like I did with my leg. So that's something that I'll do. Another thing, a big category that I'm really into is here we go, enzyme category. Now I was just with these guys, the Sun Warrior guys, so I'm taking their enzymes right now, but it always changes. And this is formulated by Victoris, who Gabriel knows Victoris very well. I don't know if you know Victoris really well, Sunil, but Victoris is an old-time raw food superhero. And he formulated these enzymes for Sun Warrior. And you see how much into enzymes I am currently into. There's nothing left. And I like to take enzymes with everything. I like taking them all day long. Some of the things that I've heard over the years, some of the experiences I've had over the years of people beating like deadly pancreatic cancer at the last minute, 4-stage, terminal case, and literally reversing their way all the way out of that with 100 enzymes a day or more, and other protocols. But those things those are real life experiences, people that I know. So that kind of caused me to go like, whoa, I like enzymes. Maybe I should do more. And you can see I've been doing more. Other things that I really like are other herbal formulas. Like I really like, I'm a big fan of all adaptogens, huge fan of all adaptogens. So I'll go for Vedic formulas of adaptogens, like a Tulsi, Ashwagandha, Shilajit, turmeric combo or something like that. And then I'll also do the Chinese formulas, and I'll also do the native formulas from the Amazon. It just depends on where I'm at. If I'm in the tropics, then I do more tropical stuff. If I'm in Houston, Texas, it'll be more stuff that grows here. If I'm in like New Mexico, northern New Mexico, it's more of stuff for that environment. One of the great adaptogens, and I think all three of us are big fans of this one, and another one that I do, it's a big one on my list, is Shilajit. And Shilajit is the black resin of the Himalayas. It's actually found in many mountain ranges all over the world. And one of the things I spent a long time really looking for was the best. What's the best one out there? And I think all three of us agree it's pure black. That's my favorite by far. Best testing, best research. And so over the years, I've been burned a few times. So I test. I got to know. And I'll let Dr. Pai come in on that. He's a clinician, so he knows he's got to test, because otherwise it's all just guesswork. What are some other things? I mean, I'll do probiotics, but do I really think if I take probiotic capsules, that's working? I'm not a huge believer that that's the best thing ever. I think the best thing ever is you take those probiotics and ferment them on your cabbage or your cucumber or your onion, and then you let that grow and you let that ferment. In particular, L. plantarum, that's a real strong one, real easy for fermented vegetables, and do it that way. So every capsule to me of a really good probiotic will culture well. That's what I use it for. So that's another category, probiotics, but I don't really take probiotics. I just use them as a starter, if you're following the logic there. What are some of the other things? I mean, I like carrying liquid tinctures, and I really like reishi as a tincture, especially the real strong bitter reishi. If I'm out and about and I need some kind of a pickup or something that's just going to really deliver the goods. Another one that's really like that, and I really like a lot, is goji schizandra combination together in tinctures. A really nice one, and it just gives you a nice uplift and it just carries a lot of bang for the buck. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually, food. Okay, yeah, I'm going to eat some avocados. Okay, yeah, I ate. You can see here, I ate 2 mangoes I ate 3 mangoes on the drive over here, and so this is all stained in mango juice. But am I really convinced that that's going to get me all the minerals that I need? Like Hanuman got all his, his nutrition from his mangoes that he loved and his raw food that he loved. And no, I'm not convinced of that for a human being. So I've got to get the superfoods and the super herbs in, not only for their secondary medicinal benefits, but they're just straight nutritional benefits. And I'll just give you one last piece on this. We actually had a really wonderful research project that was done out of Toronto at Maxim Analytics Laboratory out of Toronto. And Ramiz Saeed, who was a friend of mine there, he actually found that reishi mushroom contains the highest amount of silver of any single food in the world. How interesting is that? And then with chaga, he was the guy who found out that it contains more cesium, a highly alkaline, very powerful cancer-fighting mineral, and potassium and rubidium. Those 3 higher than anything ever tested. Chaga mushroom. So that's why I take these things. I want to get the full spectrum of all the minerals and all the nutrients and all the natural vitamins in their natural complex. Okay, so that was my spiel. I'll turn that over to either Dr. Cousens or Dr. Pai.
David, one more thing. I know you've in the past spoken highly about coated silver, charcoal, and mushrooms. Can you touch on those 3 also? How you feel about those?
Oh, I love those. In fact, I'm so glad to be home because I've been out of charcoal. I was out. My jar here, I think I got the empty jar in here somewhere. It's been empty, and I've been dealing with that. And so I've been like, oh my God, I'm going to finally get back to my charcoal. I love doing 500 milligrams of charcoal every morning. In fact, what I've been doing instead has been enzymes. Every morning I've been getting up and doing enzymes on an empty stomach. I really like enzymes on an empty stomach a lot. Oh, yep, there's the empty. So there's an empty. That's my charcoal container. So that's a big one, and I'm a real fan of that. Another big one, I'm a big fan. I do coated silver every day. And that's something it's like subconscious. I just literally put a drop or 2 or 3. Lately, I've been doing 3 into my water and just drink that down. And this seems to have an effect on my nervous system, actually. And I will say 2 things about coated silver. One is it is immunological, yes, but it's, for me, the reason why I take it is it's more sharpening my nervous system. Another thing I've noticed about coated silver that's miraculous, and this is truly miraculous, is you can put it directly into open wounds. I had my assistant sister cut off the end of her finger, and I showed up right after that, maybe 45 minutes after that. I said, let's unwrap the whole thing and let's get the silver right in there. And I was happened to be staying at her house, so I just every day put the silver in there. It was completely healed within a week. Very miraculous things I've seen like that with that coated silver topically. It's chapped lips, put it on there, done. That's the end of chapped lips. One treatment. It's crazy stuff like that. So I carry it as part of my little it's in my first aid kit. I always have my little, from my dad, I got that idea of having a doctor's bag, and it's one of those things that's in there. And there was one more thing that you mentioned, Stephen. What was the other thing?
Mushrooms.
Oh, mushrooms. I'm always doing reishi mushrooms. Let me show you, this is a really good reishi capsule that I'm doing right now, and I'm really loving a lot. You can see how dark it is. It's just phenomenal. And what's going on here is mostly reishi spore. This is mostly crack cell reishi spore. And I love that. Any reishi product, any chaga product, any lion's mane product, any Trimides product, I love them all. And I like actually doing them in multiple combinations, but you can't do everything every day. So, some days you are, more focused on the wild mushroom teas, and other days I'm more focused on another aspect of the miracle world of medicinal mushrooms. There's about 24 of them in the overall list, from maitake to cordyceps to agaricus blazei to Trimides to chaga to reishi to birch polypore, and it just goes auricularia, and it goes on and on and on, and they're all awesome.
When you say charcoal, that sounds weird to us, and it sounds like you go to a barbecue and you take a piece of charcoal. What are you actually saying?
Okay, so activated coconut charcoal is the most common type of charcoal product on the market. This has been used since the beginning of time with ancient human beings as the most preeminent and most useful detoxification and actually most safe detoxification agent. If you're going to eat like zeolite rock as a caveman, it doesn't really work out very well. But if you're going to eat charcoal, it really does work out really well. It's really easy. You just basically charcoal the birch, or you charcoal the edible wood, and you can just literally just like a drumstick just eat it like that. And that's how ancient peoples did it. There's a legend, and I named my personal charcoal product after this. It's the legend of the coal biter, which I learned from the Icelanders. And that was the runt of the litter who was least capable of dealing with the wind and the elements and the rain and the sleet and the snow and all those things you have to deal with in the Arctic, and would stay home and tend the home fire, and would eat the bits of charcoal around the edge of the fire, the willow pieces and the birch pieces. And eventually a startling metamorphosis would occur. Charcoal is a metamorphic substance. I really want to emphasize that. Meaning, if you think you're washed up, or you're too weak, or you're too old, or you're not good enough, or whatever you think you are, you start eating charcoal on the regular and watch what happens to you. Its essence is metamorphosis, right? It's metamorphosized wood, an edible wood. And so it allows you to eat the wood and get that energy. I'm absolutely enamored with it. I am in love with it, so much so that I use it for farming. I use it for any problem of any odor in the house, throw charcoal on it. You have odors in your fridge, throw charcoal in there. It's crazy like that. You got problems with old toilets, 65-year-old toilets have a smell coming out, no problem. Start flushing charcoal down there, and it will neutralize all of those gaseous odors, all the odors. And I mean crazy stuff like, I live in an old house on my farm, not here in this place, but in my other farm. And it's like it's a 70-year-old house. It's old. and there's odors that come out of things, or there were, and we finally just were like, shovel the charcoal down there, flush it down the toilet, keep putting it in there, and it, boom, it absorbs it. That's the end of it. So that's my spiel.
I really appreciate David and the herbs. I primarily use herbs rather than supplements. I prescribe a lot of supplements because people are at different levels. I don't even take digestive enzymes anymore. Something happened and my digestion keeps getting better and better. So I stopped taking digestive enzymes. I use the tonic herbs. And I use I'm going to say the top 5, and they're all connected with longevity, well-being, and building the brain. So those are that. And then goji berries are actually an herb. And so that's part of what I do, is a fair amount of, a certain amount of goji berries in the morning as my tonic herb drink, so to speak. There's some interesting research by a man named Dr. Pop from Germany, and he measured people's health by measuring the biophotons, which is the radiation you're giving off from your body. And junk food eaters have 1,000 biophotons, and if you're eating good cooked organic food, 23,000. If you're a baby, 43,000. If you're a live fooder, 83,000. But if you add the tonic herbs, you're up to 116,000. So tonic herbs make a really big difference in terms of your vitality and really frequency. And he did it more concretely, measuring biophotons, energy that the body's giving off. So I'm really into herbs, and particularly, I guess, very specifically the tonic herbs. So that's how I look at it versus medicinal herbs, except when you need them for a particular problem or something like that. So that's the number one thing that I do. I also do, I do take vitamin C. I take a very all natural C. It's got the rutin and hesperin and everything, not ascorbic acid, which really isn't vitamin C. I do, basically, I do food concentrates. So I do food concentrates that will have some higher levels of B vitamins in it. I do take a vegan vitamin D. Because the truth is, most people, 85% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. So that's something that I think is important, particularly with the whole COVID trip. It's like, okay, well, fine, you're taking your vitamin D. So those are kind of the main things I do with the herbs. Lion's mane, as David mentioned, is another herb, but it's really great for your brain and your mind. So that's my feeling about that. I'm taking less and less supplements and more the herbal extracts. I just find that easy to do. But that's my main kind of input or intake with it. I also take silver every day as well. So what I have found is your body gets more and more attuned, you need less and less of things. So you go from a few meals a day, now it's 1 meal a day, but a little goji berries in the morning with my herbal combination. And that's kind of how I kind of approach it. And I like taking less and not so often. But I'm not doing it because of being lazy. It's just like it works. I kind of observe what goes on, and that seems to work. The tonic herbs are the key. So that's what I have to say about that.
Dr. Cousens, what about algae like blue-green algae, chlorella? What about bee pollen? What
Okay,
about?
I do take, and I have taken since 1982, the blue-green algae from Klamath Lake. I did a lot of some of the initial research on it. And I actually forgot that. I take like a teaspoon of that a day, and I think it's good. I don't really take the spirulina or chlorella. They just seem a little heavy for me. But those are good things for people who need a lot of protein. I don't need as much protein. So we have to be careful. We are unique individuals. We're not a bunch of cows, and we have to individualize our diet. So I'm talking about, the trend, but definitely thank you for asking that, because the blue-green algae has many, many positive ramifications. It's really good for brain. It's really good for focus. Kids in Indonesia who took it for 4 months upped their IQ by 8 points. So there's a lot of things like that. The other thing I do take is iodine. I take aluminine, which is the most potent antiviral, which is important these days, and antibacterial and antifungal. So that's something that I take during, I just take on a regular basis. And the antiviral part is pretty important at this point. So that is a supplement in a sense where most people are iodine deficient. About 95%, 75 to 95% of the population is iodine deficient, particularly if you come from the Great Lakes area where I grew up. So that's another really important thing that I take is the aluminine, which is a scalar wave activated iodine. So
What about bee pollen?
I occasionally will take bee pollen. At this point, it's about once every 2 weeks. But it's a really good supplement because it has all the, incredible amount of enzymes. I do want to say, right now I'm not doing it, but is the systemic enzymes, I think, which David was referring to, that aren't for digestion, but they're anti-inflammatory, and they break down excess protein in your body and generally have anti-cancer qualities, break down tumor. And so that's something I do take as well. I don't take, now you got me going again, I don't really take any acidophilus. My wife makes great kimchi, and I think that to me is the natural way of bringing it in is just a nice thing. So I like to have a little kimchi every day, a tablespoon or so.
What about vitamin A and DHA?
Well, vitamin A is, I think, important, and vegetarians, vegans don't get very much of it. I think it's good, particularly during the COVID time, because it's very good for upper respiratory lining of the cells and sinuses. So I think that's good. And the DHA, EPA, now that you mentioned it, the long chain omega-3 fatty acids are very supportive to brain development. And I do take that kind of it's not as a baseline, but I take it. I think it's I think it's important, particularly with the assault on the brain today from all the things that are happening. I think the DHA is the main one to be taken, but usually they come together. And I take it from yellow algae. I don't take it from fish.
And what about magnesium, zeolites, and selenium?
Good. So I shared the core. Magnesium, depending on the person, but 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium. I haven't been taking magnesium, and I'm surprised I'm not getting spasms. There's a time when I did take magnesium a fair amount. I feel people get muscle cramps and spasms. It's a must. So that would be something that in general is a good thing, although I'm not doing it really right now. And the zeolite, I don't exactly see as a supplement, but it is something I do take. Again, not as much as what I used to do. So it's not on my front line, so to speak, but we live in a very toxic environment. The zeolite gets out the radioactive contamination and lead, mercury, cadmium type things. So I think it's a generally good thing to do, particularly if you're, depending where you're living. If you're living in the country, it's less of an issue. So did you ask about selenium?
Selenium.
I'm not taking selenium right now. I think it's good to alternate, but E and selenium make a good combination. Again, it's a tremendous antioxidant. It's not, again, in the front line. Okay, kind of what I share is the core, and the rest are something if I feel I need it.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody's different. So what I'm doing is different than what somebody else needs.
Thank
All
you.
right, this is my turn, right? So I would start off with an anti-inflammatory. Obviously, David, thank you for the wonderful endorsement of Bosmeric, and I'll cover that in my lecture. But it's an anti-inflammatory that people take because most people have some kind of pro-inflammatory condition. Anything that has the word itis just means inflammation. So there's 200 different type of itises that we have, and so we want to make sure that we're lowering inflammation safely, avoiding any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory as much as possible, such as ibuprofen and Motrin and Advil and Aleve and naproxens and Tylenols and stuff like that. So that will be my lecture coming soon on this conference. But taking the Bosmeric as an anti-inflammatory because we all want to lower inflammation. Vitamin D is super important. So what Gabriel was talking about is absolutely true. But we want to also test that vitamin D because really, with the data we'll show. I'm an evidence-based data guy, as you'll know. So even in my book, there's 1,500 references to the scientific studies and investigative journalism articles because we have to look at not only just taking supplements, but can we measure the benefits of taking something, right? Obviously, like with an adaptogen, you can take and say they feel better energy, for example. But on vitamin D, it's very simple because we can see is their deficiency getting enhanced? Is it actually getting to the optimum range? The data will show that we want roughly between 60 and 100 on the blood test, preferably on oncology patients that I see a lot, more of a 70. As kind of the magic number. COVID data was roughly better at 60 than anything and above than anything else. And even people that are coming in the same comorbid conditions, those people who had higher vitamin D levels had less symptoms or less long-term problems with exposure. So we know that the vitamin D is a non-specific biomarker of your immune system. So the simplest and cheapest thing, public health-wise, worldwide, that other governments are actually doing is actually ensuring that vitamin D gets out to the population. There was a study that just came out just about 3 weeks ago in Germany. They show that 30,000 cancer deaths just alone in Germany would be prevented if they give vitamin D. And in fact, now they're looking at a program where the government's actually going to provide the vitamin D because it's dirt cheap, right? Super cheap, and then they're going to see they can save, I think it was almost like 300 million euros just by that and save that many deaths. That's just on cancer. We're not talking about all these other diseases. So these are simple public health measures that, everybody should be taking a vitamin D. But more importantly, remember, it's a fat soluble vitamin, meaning it absorbs 60% better with fat. A, D, E, K are the ones that are fat soluble, meaning you take the vitamin D with your largest, fattiest meal. So if you're having a little avocado or nut butter or having a little bit of olive oil in your salad or something like that, that's the meal that you should be taking it with because it's going to absorb better. So taking it is one thing, but actually testing, now anybody that has osteoporosis, osteopenia, the insurance will cover it. Anybody who doesn't, ask your doctor because what you want to be doing is not just taking it, but are you in the therapeutic range? Because that's something under $15 in general can really prevent so many things. 60% reduction in chronic diseases when you hit this targeted range. So that's an amazing thing. Same thing with the Bosmeric. We're lowering 97 different mechanisms of inflammation, right? We have a 20-minute onset of action and 8-hour sustained release. So how can we, reduce a headache or back pain all instantly within 20 minutes and last over 8 hours? Bosmeric will help. So those are my favorite two. Second thing is, from immune system strengthening, not a hyper response, but strengthening, I give something called Glucan 300. It's a polysaccharide that's actually grown on culture. Now, when we look at mushrooms, now David loves mushrooms, Gabriel loves, I love mushrooms. I love to actually eat more mushrooms, by the way. It's because every mushroom has a part of the mushroom, which is a polysaccharide called a beta-glucan. About 20% on average is what we can extract from the plants. And so those are very helpful for immune. That's why mushrooms, you look at all these mushroom formulas, immune formulas, there's a mushroom. Now, each mushroom has its own effect. Some of them are adaptogenic. They help with fatigue. Some of them are like lion's mane, help with brain function. Some of them help with breast. Some of them help with other aspects of the body. So when it comes to looking at those specific, individual aspects, that's when I would recommend a specific mushroom supplement, or even putting it as a food, eating those mushrooms as much as you can. Absolutely. But when I look at stimulating and making sure like you're lowering inflammation and lowering interleukins and aspects of the immune system, evidence-based wise, we've run a study. There's a study, actually 4 studies published, looking at all the mushroom extracts, looking at from an immune perspective, not from these other adaptogenic or but just looking at the immune system. Can we lower the inflammatory responses, and can we help stimulate, but not upregulate, but strengthen the immune system in vitro and in vivo, meaning in cell cultures and animals? And the Glucan 300 did better than all the top 60 products on the market today. And each of these studies, each of these other products usually have a study. Now, independently, we're running like which one is better. So if someone comes to me like, I want something for my immune system, vitamin D, Glucan 300, eat all the mushrooms, and then we give specific mushrooms, adaptogens, other things based on what they're interested in. Okay. I always like to look at also, when we talk about magnesium, when we talk about zinc, when we talk about, just general multivitamins, especially being plant-based, we need to be taking B12. So I just recommend a methylated B complex that we provide. 30% of the people have a methylation problem. Now, a liver formula, right? Because I always look at, helping the liver detoxify, because most people have elevated liver enzymes, fatty liver, or they're taking medications or chemotherapies or statins, or they're drinking lots of alcohol. So we're looking at how do we help, generate more AC glutathione in the body just by giving our liver formula, which is milk thistle, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic, and selenium. That's Dr. Bergson's formula, the father of alpha-lipoic, that I got when I was a medical student, I got to work with him. So it's just kind of a great admiration to that formula. But when I look at things in general, everybody, you give a top 10 list, is what we do in our clinic, which is quite unique, is that we test for these things, because I want food as medicine. So when we do nutrition testing, we're looking at your antioxidants, your B vitamins, your minerals. We're looking at your omegas 3, 6, and 9s. We're looking at heavy metals. We're looking at what is deficient. And then most likely, the nice thing about our testing is that I'll tell you, like, these are the foods to eat. I don't give vitamin A. I don't give vitamin E. I don't give vitamin C. Why? Because you can eat them so simply. Right? So I want people to eat the foods that they can eat, because then they're getting protein, fiber, phytonutrients, and the antioxidant. However, when there's a deficiency, or someone has a disease and it's really low, it's hard to get it from the food. Supplements are supplementing the diet, not replacing the diet. And that's where, like Gabriel's saying, over time, like, he's taking less and less. Why? Because his diet has been perfect. He's improving his diet every day for decades. So therefore, like, his food has become his supplements. It's become his nutrition. It's become his medicine. So he doesn't need to have as much, right? Now, when we see people, though, I like to target it, because I don't want to be like, oh, just take a bunch of things. I'm very targeted and very specific. So we measure microbiome function, and we're looking at food sensitivities. We have to look at and individualize what product that we provide, what foods we want to strengthen more. We all want to move plant-based, but you can still have sensitivity to plants. You can still have an allergy or sensitivity to a soy or corn or wheat or tomato or avocados. So we want to look at everything, and then we design like a health program. Like, what is your individualized, do you have even genetic metabolism issues? Right. So if we understand that, we know like what we can do to help rebalance that, because otherwise people kind of just shotgun approach, taking tons of tonic herbs. I love it, by the way. Taking tons of tonic mushrooms. I love it. There's no harm in that. You're going to feel better. But I like to dig further. Why do people have dis-ease? And why they're having their disease and their symptoms, and looking at what are the underlying triggering mechanisms, dysfunctions, and imbalances, and restore those functions, and make food as medicine the priority number one. And then we fine tune it by looking at what they may need. And then what we do is potency, purity, safety, efficacy. So just real quick, when we're talking about coated silver, right? Coated silver is unique because that is a patented form of colloidal silver. Not all colloidal silvers are the same. Why? Because a recent study was recently published. You can go to PubMed, look at the comparative analysis of commercially prepared colloidal silvers, right? They took the top 14 colloidal silvers on the market that are on Amazon, that are selling, that you go to any health store in America, from Georgia to Alaska to New York City. And we all will see these brands. We all know them by name. Out of 14, 12 of them fail. Right? They're not nanoparticle as they claim, and they're not colloidal. They're actually ionic, which actually can cause dysfunction in cell function. So some of these things we've got to be really careful when people take it, because it may have a certain benefit, but taking it long term, so when we look at this coated silver right now, I was really too excited to announce that yesterday I was actually able to get a translation of an article which shows, because on that coated silver, it's finished a phase 1 trial study in Ukraine. So, we're looking at, moving things in evidence-based literature of looking at safety, potency, purity, efficacy. So when we look at ashwagandha, when we look at a ginseng, for me, it's looking at what are the studies, what are the components? Can we make sure that we are getting it at a level that people can get a more of a clinical effect? Taking these things as food is wonderful because it's never harmful. You're getting extra protein, vitamins, minerals, all the adaptogenic phytonutrients. But when people come to see me, I'm trying to turn all of those things into a medicine stronger than what they're just going to take off the shelf. Oh, I just got this at Walmart. I got this on, Amazon.com, whatever. I want to look at, what can we do to actually change a physical parameter, because we're measuring those things. So from our perspective, when we look at silvers, we got to be really careful. Even the zeolite that he's talking about, I don't recommend zeolites at all. Why? Because I was, 15 years ago, I was hired by a pharmaceutical company that was going to come from Europe, and they were actually giving zeolites because zeolites help actually not only detoxify, right? We use it for waste management, we use it for pig farming, we use it for all sorts of things, right, to clear out things. But also they were looking at it taking things back into the cell. So pharmaceutical companies were looking at, and they hired me as a consultant because they were looking at how do I take a drug in a smaller dose and deliver it into the cell. Interesting thing, they were actually launching it in Europe. They actually had 4 or 5 different products. They were taking like an antioxidant, giving it with the zeolite and delivering it. Now here in New Mexico, we have one of the zeolite institutes of mining. It's like it's a medical thing that they have like the historical use of zeolites here. And so I contacted them, and so we were looking at different mines all across Europe, all across the United States, because zeolites you can get like a ton of it for like $20, $10. It's just basically it's mined from the dirt. But the problem is that we started to find out is that as much as it's binding from the environment, it binds things that we don't need from the environment, like radioactive material. And so when they were giving it as a supplement, they sent it out a test market. Even the 3 top people of the company, 2 of them died. One of them came down with the autoimmune disease within 3 weeks of trying the product. And the reason being is because now we find out that it's binding things in the environment. So that's why it's good for radioactive waste, but also when it's in the earth, it's already picking up things in the environment. So I'm really, I have to be really cautious when we're talking about products, because people can talk about products all the time. And there might be safer ones out there, but when I see like multi-level marketing and direct marketing companies like that, I get really nervous, because I'm looking at potency, purity, safety, efficacy with everything we provide.